Hello and welcome to the Listening Post's unboxing channel on YouTube. Today I'm unboxing a brand new set of some of the best in-ceiling speakers available in the market today. These Elac Vela in-ceiling speakers. Now their model is IC-VJ63 something. Waffle. IC for in-ceiling, V for the main driver emulates that of the Vela range, J meaning it's got their jet tweeter, their folded ribbon, the iconic tweeter that Elac is renowned for in their higher end range. 6.3 implying it's a 6.5 inch driver, and 3, I don't know. These are typically bought and sold in pairs, as you would expect. You're going to be putting them in a lovely dining space or a space where you're going to sit and enjoy your music, knowing that you've probably invested in some higher end Elac speakers elsewhere in the home and don't want to be disappointed with the more lifestyle or invisible speakers associated with ones in the ceiling or walls. It's wonderful that Elac has the gumption to be able to bring some of their best technologies, best crossovers, best tweeters, best mid-bass drivers and introduce them into a custom installation range. So, let's have a look. Firstly, obviously bought and sold typically in pairs, available each if required. Because they're identical, we'll just be putting them off to one side and concentrating on the first one. Like all Elac packaging, the boxes are pretty vanilla as far as that goes. There's a line drawing of the speaker itself, along with some basic information on one side, and scannable product information and serial numbers on one end. All of the generic sort of things and frequency responses are printed on the opposite side to the serial number. Opening them, really easy. It's a classic craft knife with some packing tape. Inside the first layer we see a second box, and like most, probably the easiest is to take this layer off and discard it, and it leaves us with an inner carton. This has an emulation and a scan of the serial number of the product, and it's very straightforward to open this next layer. It's here that we see a very specific user manual and installation guide for these sort of Vela in-ceiling speakers. Again, line drawings. There's 3 in the range. There's the traditional one that we will see today. There is a directional one, very well suited for in-ceiling home theatre, where the front 3 need to couple well with the visual cue or your television. And then they do an in-wall, and all of these are designed to be a tonal match to their higher end Vela range of speakers. Next layer, we see the cutout, and this is a simple enough template utilised to help with locating the speaker, cutting out associated with the mechanisms of clamping, and the ability with this one, which has a couple of cutaways. The actual size of the speaker is aligned here and the cutaway is inside, so we get a really good feel for how we can place it in the space. Underneath the cutaway we have the grill. Now that's protected in a separate little box. Very straightforward to open that. Worth mentioning, the grill itself is sitting inside another piece of cut cardboard to make sure that the grill doesn't wobble around and freight. It's a micro-perforated grill, and in the bag with it is the Elac logo, which you can choose to add if you wish. For obvious reasons, people may be looking for a very simple, very elegant installation, and the badge might not look that good. But if I was to show these off in our showroom, I'm going to put that badge on. It highlights the branding and the quality of the brand itself, of course. The micro-perforated grill has one of those sort of soft filters on the underside, and it has a nice little sort of off-white colour. Actually quite nice and stiff and rigid as well. It's not flimsy at all. Looking at the packaging, we see a couple of things. Firstly, lifting it out, we're left with the basics, which is a desiccant bag to ensure that it didn't get affected by moisture on the way, And something I'm very, very proud of is the choices that Elac have made associated with their packaging. In a departure from some of these very permanent materials like polystyrene, Elac is using 100% recycled and 100% recyclable cardboard in our packaging. It's brilliant to see, and it means that worst case scenario, if this even ends up in landfill, it's going to decompose very, very quickly. So awesome job. Now the speaker itself is inside an oversized bag. I would suspect this bag is probably utilised for your entire sort of custom range. And at first glance you can see an immediate character associated with the design. This sort of signature drive unit, which is an ATS driver. So this is this aluminium sandwich technology. Composite materials are sandwiched with the aluminium, and it gives it a rigidity second to none in its class. You'll also see, and again if I sort of move it around to catch the light, and please as always hang around for some photographs, I'll take close-ups. You'll see that there is a triangular shape in that drive unit, and again this is kind of that iconic driver that we see in their higher end speakers. It adds rigidity, and with rigidity they can afford to back off the weight and mass of the speaker, and the end result is something that is lighter and easier to control and therefore will perform better. It's one of the reasons that Elac is so renowned for having such good bass control from such a relatively small drive unit. And all of these finer little details have been introduced into such a relatively cost-effective in-ceiling speaker. Then we see the other iconic thing, and that's that folded ribbon tweeter. Now it's smaller than you might see in some of their bookshelf speakers and traditional floor standers, but of course it's fit for purpose as far as the space that you would put this in. They've introduced the same disbursement rings and texture, and again hang around or take some close-ups to ensure that it's managing the reflection off the surfaces around that tweeter and making sure that it minimises the distortion and leaves you with a clean, crisp sound that isn't bright. Again, the tweeter is that classic jet ribbon tweeter that we see and is iconic in their range. There's a beautiful little Elac logo, and again attention to detail as far as that goes. There's a semi-rubberized surface, and I guess even the photographs aren't really going to show that this has a sort of a semi-soft texture to it. And that is again to manage the reflection of the sound produced by the drive unit and ensure it arrives accurately into the listening position or room. There are a series of magnets around it to ensure that the grill is held firmly and cannot chatter, and those magnets hold them tight. The combination of this sort of semi-soft texture in the grill means that the grill snaps in really, really well. It's very difficult to dislodge, and it's very, very unlikely to ever fall off. Spinning it around and having a look at the side, we see some other attention to detail. The firstly is that they've opted for a steel composite material utilised for the feet. In fact, it's a composite plastic, sorry, it's not steel. It means that you get a very wide footprint as far as the grip on the jib or rock that you may be using, and it's got grooves in it to ensure that it won't slip round. It's that classic sort of first quarter turn with a screwdriver enables that dog leg to come out, and it's very straightforward to tighten up against the surface of the jib that you're putting it in. The basket, main magnet and everything have been tuned to ensure that the product can be as shallow as possible, yet manage all of the bass response that you would expect. They've utilised some very elaborate magnets and voice coil structures to ensure that the Vela range drive unit isn't left lacking as far as the control. It has excellent fit and finish as far as all of the parts that are associated with bringing the signal to the speaker and moving parts, and it's backed up with some brilliant quality crossover components which you can barely see because of the protective cover, but again I'll try and take some photographs at certain angles so you can see them. Even the board that the crossover components are mounted to is utterly beautiful. They've really thought about how genuinely good this speaker is going to be, and every element of its design has been thought through. At the back we see the Elac logo and again scannable information associated with its model and serial number and an emulation of the model itself. The binding posts are a classic sort of one-handed, one hand for the cable, another hand for the push to get it in, and it offers a really good solid spring back to immediately make very, very good contact with the conductive materials you've got in place. So design-wise, it's a two-way design, obviously, a tweeter and mid-bass. It gets down to about 45 Hz, although if you're putting that frequency response in a ceiling, you might want to consider some form of, additional bracing, MDF, something like that, lightweight materials in the ceiling to ensure that the drive unit can sustain that without potentially creating a diaphragm in the jib. It'll get up to 45 kHz, of course, as you would expect, being the jet tweeter. It's 88 dB efficient, which is very good in its category, and it's 4 ohms, so it's pretty straightforward to get control and grip of it. It'll start to sound really, really good with a basic sort of 20 to 40 watt amplifier, but will handle loads in excess of 100 watts if required. So there we have it. Elac's brand new Vela range in-ceiling speaker. Their IC-VJ63-W, whatever that means. A stunning in-ceiling speaker. Unboxed here at the Listening Post in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. G'day. To prove that no one ever watches these videos all the way to the end, I'm going to talk about my favourite beer. This is a Three Boys IPA. By definition, I think it's a red IPA. Clearly, it's a bit darker than most. It's absolutely stunning. And it's brewed at the Three Boys factory 600 metres down the road. Stunning local company, great group of people, lovely drop. It's available in cans, so the whole recycled of bottles and whether or not it's actually going to landfill, all of those things are resolved because the aluminium can has a value and people will retrieve them for that. Nevertheless, absolutely stunning, and I hope you enjoy my videos. If you mention this beer review and come in and see us around 4 or 5 o'clock, I'll give you one of these to try.